Have you ever noticed something strange about modern professionals? On the surface, everything looks perfect. A stable job, a good salary, a comfortable lifestyle. From the outside, it seems like they have everything figured out. But when you actually talk to them privately, a different story appears. They are not financially calm. They are not relaxed about the future. And many of them quietly admit something they don't say publicly. I earn well, but I still don't feel secure. And this is where the real question begins. How can someone earning a strong income still feel like they are financially stuck? Because logically, higher income should solve money problems. More salary should mean more savings, more comfort, more freedom. But in reality, something else is happening underneath. The uncomfortable truth is that income alone does not create financial security anymore, especially in modern economies like the United States and Europe, where the cost of living adjusts silently but constantly. What makes this even more confusing is that these are not careless people. These are educated professionals, engineers, office workers, analysts, healthcare workers, IT employees, people who understand systems, logic, and structure in their careers. Yet when it comes to personal finance, the same logic doesn't always apply. And the result is surprising. Even with good salaries, many professionals feel like they are just managing life instead of building wealth. Every month feels planned, but also full. Money comes in, and almost immediately it goes out again. There is a quiet cycle that repeats itself. A paycheck arrives, bills are paid. Some money goes to rent or mortgage, some goes to car payments, some disappears into subscriptions, groceries, insurance, credit cards. And by the end of the month, the bank account resets to almost the same level again. Nothing feels broken, but nothing is really growing either. And that's what makes this situation so dangerous. Because financial stress is not always loud, sometimes it is silent. It hides inside normal routines. It hides inside "I'll save next month." It hides inside "I deserve this upgrade after working so hard." And slowly, without any major mistake, people start living at the edge of their income, no matter how high that income becomes. So the real issue is not about being irresponsible. It is about something deeper, something psychological and structural. Why does a higher salary not automatically lead to higher financial security? Why do smart, capable professionals still feel like they are one unexpected expense away from stress? And most importantly, why does it feel like no matter how much you earn, it is never quite enough? That is the question we need to understand before anything else makes sense. Let's make this real with a simple, everyday example that could easily describe someone living in the United States or in Western Europe. Imagine a young professional in their late 20s or early 30s. They are educated, working full-time, and doing exactly what they were told would lead to stability. They earn around $85,000 a year. On paper, that sounds like a strong, comfortable income. Many people would assume this person is already making it. But the reality starts after taxes. Once federal taxes, state taxes, and basic deductions are taken out, that $85,000 doesn't feel like $85,000 anymore. What actually arrives each month is closer to about $5,000 in take-home pay, sometimes even less depending on the state or country. And this is where real life begins. The first major expense is housing. In many cities across the US and Europe, rent or mortgage costs are extremely high. A modest apartment in a decent area can easily cost between $1,800 and $2,200 a month. In larger cities, it can go even higher. This is not luxury, this is normal living. After housing, the next unavoidable cost is transportation. Many professionals rely on a car to commute, especially outside major city centers. A car payment, insurance, fuel and maintenance can easily add another $400 to $600 a month. Then comes daily life: groceries, utilities, internet, phone bills, basic subscriptions, and household expenses. Even if someone is careful, this often adds up to around $1,000 to $1,200 a month without much effort. So at this point, before even considering debt or lifestyle choices, a large portion of income is already allocated. But the story doesn't stop there. Many professionals also carry student loans. In the US especially, this is a major monthly burden. Payments of $200, $300, or even $500 are not unusual. Then there are credit cards, not necessarily because of luxury spending, but often because life is expensive and unpredictable. A medical bill, a home repair, a travel expense, or even small gaps between paychecks can lead to balances that slowly accumulate. And when you combine everything together, rent, car, insurance, groceries, loans, and small financial leaks, you often reach a total monthly expense of around $4,500 to $4,800, which leaves something surprising. Out of a $5,000 monthly income, there may be only $200 to $500 left, sometimes even less depending on the state or country. And that remaining amount is not stable. It often disappears into unexpected expenses, social events, gifts, or simple convenience spending. So from the outside, this person looks successful. They have a good job, they are living independently, they are managing their responsibilities. But inside the system, something important is missing: financial breathing room. There is no real gap between income and expenses. Everything is tightly packed. And this is where the confusion begins, because logically, a high salary should create comfort, but instead, it creates a lifestyle that expands just enough to absorb it completely. So the question is no longer about income alone. It becomes a question of structure, habits, and silent financial pressure that builds inside a normal modern life without anyone clearly noticing it. At first glance, it looks like the problem is obvious. Expenses are high and life is expensive. But if we look deeper, something more subtle is happening. The real issue is not a single bad decision. It's a system that quietly adjusts itself every time income increases. This is where the hidden financial mistake begins. It is not overspending in the traditional sense. Most people aren't buying extreme luxury cars or living beyond imagination. Instead, they are making small, normal upgrades that feel completely reasonable at the time. A slightly better apartment because I can afford it now. A newer car because I worked hard for this. More dining out because I don't have time after work. Better clothes, upgraded phone, small subscriptions that improve comfort. Individually, none of these decisions look dangerous. In fact, they feel responsible. They feel like progress. They feel like stability. But the real issue is not each decision alone, it's the pattern. Lifestyle doesn't rise suddenly. It rises quietly, step by step, month by month. Each increase in income gives permission for a slightly better life. And over time, that better life becomes the new normal. This is what makes the problem invisible, because when something becomes normal, it stops feeling like a choice. A person earning $3,000 a month may feel stressed living at that level, but when they start earning $5,000 a month, instead of saving the difference, their lifestyle slowly expands to match the new income. And without realizing it, they return to the same emotional position, living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher level. So this is why many high earners feel no real financial progress. Economists sometimes call this lifestyle inflation, but in real life it feels much more personal. It feels like natural improvement. It feels like reward. It feels like this is what I deserve after working harder. And that emotional logic is powerful, because money decisions are rarely purely mathematical. They are emotional responses disguised as practical choices. There is also a social layer to this. People compare themselves constantly, even without realizing it. Colleagues, friends, social media, family expectations, all of these quietly influence what normal life should look like. So when income increases, there is unspoken pressure to match that new standard, not to fall behind, not to look like life is not improving, not to feel like success is only on paper. Over time, this creates a system where every income increase is absorbed almost automatically, not by one big decision, but by many small ones that feel completely justified. And this is the key mistake. People assume wealth is built by earning more, but in reality, if every increase in income is matched by an increase in lifestyle, then the net result is zero progress. Nothing is wrong in the behavior individually, but
simple math plus psychological reason. To really understand what is happening, we need to slow everything down and look at a very simple version of the math. Not complex formulas, not investment theories, just basic monthly flow. Let's go back to the example of someone earning around $5,000 per month after tax. On paper, this already feels like a solid income. It is enough to live comfortably in many cities in the US or Europe. But the key question is not how much comes in, it is how much remains at the end. Now imagine their monthly spending structure. Rent or mortgage takes a large portion, car payments and transport take another part, groceries, utilities, insurance, subscriptions take more, student loans or credit cards reduce it further. When all of this is added together, the total monthly spending often lands somewhere around $4,500 to $4,800. Now let's pause here and do the simple math. Income, $5,000. Expenses, $4,800. Remaining balance, $200. On the surface, this looks like a working system. Bills are paid, life continues, nothing is broken, but financially something very important is missing. There is no meaningful buffer. And without a buffer, money cannot grow, it can only circulate. This is the core issue. Now, the interesting part is not the math itself, but the psychology behind it. Because most people do not consciously decide to spend everything they earn. Instead, spending adjusts automatically. The human mind is not wired to treat extra income as something that should remain unused. It is wired to improve comfort when possible. This is called adaptation. When income rises, the brain quickly recalibrates what feels normal. A better apartment does not feel like luxury anymore. It feels like, finally, I live decently. A nicer car does not feel excessive. It feels safe and reliable. Eating out more often does not feel like indulgence, it feels like convenience after a busy workday. So even though income increases, the internal definition of normal life increases at the same time. And this is where the trap forms. Because once a new lifestyle becomes normal, reducing it feels like loss, not saving. And humans are far more sensitive to loss than they are to gain. This is why people rarely downgrade their lifestyle even when they realize they should save more. The emotional discomfort feels stronger than the financial logic. There is also another layer, timing. Income increases are often slow, once a year, maybe with a promotion, but lifestyle adjustments happen continuously. A new subscription here, a slightly better lease there, small upgrades that don't feel like financial decisions at all. So mathematically, income changes in steps, but spending changes in smooth curves, and smooth curves always fill gaps over time. That is why even disciplined professionals often find themselves in the same position, earning more but not keeping more. The math is simple, but the psychology is powerful. And when psychology overrides math repeatedly, financial progress becomes invisible, even when income is objectively strong. Long-term impact. If this pattern continues for just a few years, the effects do not show up immediately. That's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like normal life. Month after month, income arrives, bills are paid, life moves forward. There are no dramatic financial failures, no sudden collapse. Everything looks stable from the outside, but inside the system, something very important is missing: accumulation. Because even though income is high, savings remain small or inconsistent. There is no growing financial base. There is no strong cushion building quietly in the background. And without that cushion, time does not create freedom. It only repeats routine. Now, imagine this same pattern over 5 years. A professional earns well every month, let's say even $5,000 to $7,000 in take-home income. Over a year, that's a strong total income. Over 5 years, it becomes a very large number. But when expenses rise almost in parallel, what remains is surprisingly small. Maybe a few thousand in savings, maybe some investments that are not consistent, maybe retirement contributions that exist but don't feel meaningful yet. And this is where the long-term impact becomes clear. Financial vulnerability does not appear because income is low. It appears because there is no distance between income and lifestyle. So when life is stable, everything feels fine. But the moment something changes, even slightly, the system becomes fragile. A job change, a recession, a health issue, a family responsibility, a period of unemployment. Even a few months of disruption can expose how thin the financial buffer really is. And at that moment, the same person who looked successful suddenly feels exposed. This is why many high-income professionals experience stress during uncertainty, not because they are poor, but because they are not insulated. There is also another long-term effect that is less visible but equally important: delayed financial independence. When savings are not growing meaningfully, goals like early retirement, financial freedom, or even simple work flexibility get pushed further into the future. Not because they are impossible, but because progress is too slow to notice. Years pass and people often realize something quietly unsettling. They have been working for a long time, but their financial position does not reflect that time proportionally. It feels like effort without accumulation. And psychologically, this creates a subtle frustration, because effort is being rewarded with lifestyle stability, not financial freedom. The lifestyle continues to improve slightly, but the foundation remains the same. And when the foundation does not change, the structure above it cannot become truly secure. So even though everything appears normal year by year, the long-term picture is very different. It's a life that feels stable, but is not strongly protected, comfortable, but not free, functional, but not flexible. And this gap between appearance and reality is what slowly becomes noticeable only after many years have already passed. At this point, the situation becomes clearer, but the solution is not about doing something extreme. It is not about cutting life down to the minimum or rejecting comfort. It is about understanding a completely different way of thinking about money. Because financially intelligent people do not focus on income alone. They do not measure success only by salary increases or job titles. Instead, they focus on something quieter and more important: what actually remains after life is paid for. This shift in thinking changes everything. Most people, when they receive a salary increase, immediately think about improvement: a better apartment, a better car, a slightly more comfortable lifestyle. And on the surface, that seems logical. You work more, you earn more, you live better. But financially aware individuals ask a different question. Not what can I upgrade, but what can I keep stable? Because stability creates space, and space creates options. When every dollar of income is immediately assigned to a lifestyle upgrade, there is no room left for growth. But when even a small portion is left untouched, not out of restriction, but out of intention, that space slowly becomes financial strength. Over time, that difference becomes very visible. One person lives fully aligned with their income, always adjusting lifestyle upward. The other lives slightly below their maximum capacity, allowing a gap to form between earnings and expenses. That gap might not feel important in a single month. It might look small, almost insignificant, but financially, it's the only thing that compounds. And compounding is what creates real independence over time. This is where perspective matters more than technique, because many people believe financial improvement comes from finding better investments or higher returns. But in reality, the first and most important step is often simply preventing full absorption of income by lifestyle. Not eliminating comfort, but separating comfort from automatic expansion. Financially intelligent behavior is often quiet. It does not look impressive from the outside. There is no visible upgrade every year, no constant lifestyle change. Instead, there is consistency, predictability, control over direction rather than reaction to income changes. And because of that, over time, their financial position becomes more stable even without dramatic income differences. Now, stepping back, this is not about judging anyone's choices. Modern life is expensive and social pressure is real. Everyone is operating within the same environment, and most people are simply trying to balance comfort with responsibility. But awareness changes how decisions are made inside that environment. Once you see how easily income gets absorbed by lifestyle, you start noticing patterns you didn't see before. Small decisions become clearer, long-term consequences become easier to understand, and financial stress stops feeling random, it starts feeling structured. And that's the real shift. Not becoming extreme, not changing everything overnight, but simply understanding where money actually goes and how quietly it gets shaped by habits and expectations. Because in the end,